Hugh.
Hugh.
Here with Rebazar Muñoz. And we're talking jazz, we're talking music, we're talking life. And Rebbe, you were talking earlier and saying that you've been checking out a lot of jazz musicians' biographies or documentaries or audiobooks. And yeah, what have you been learning about different jazz players? And is there anything you'd like to share?
I've been learning that the jazz life has not always been easy for people. I've been learning that even though on stage it looks like they've had an easy life, it's really been hard. In general, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we know from learning about them, a lot of them have turned to drugs, alcohol, women, and really anything that can get them away from their lives off stage, right? Yeah. Yeah, not everyone is a happy-go-lucky.
I bet they need to really focus on their music, and they'll be the happiest, in my opinion.
Certainly. Yeah. And then in comparison, how would you say a lot of those players compare with your dad and what he's
No comparison, because my dad's a yogi and he understands the spiritual path of music, man. Most definitely. No doubt.
So, as you've been learning about these players, how were they living, and what was their life? What were their lifestyles like? We know the music was great, but what were their lifestyles like?
Well, they were on the road a lot, and they had to work from gig to gig to get by enough and to make, a living, and that's the way it is for them. Even Pharoah and John Coltrane in the beginning until they got famous, then they got famous, man, so happy life, but you do what you gotta do, man. But that's cool. Question? I would compare my dad more to John Coltrane than the Miles, because Miles Davis was into the bebop thing, and I love bebop, but John Coltrane, who Miles has played the also, has also done that, but he went into the spiritual thing, and so the Pharoah Saunders, and that's one of the ways that my dad, Tisziji, has come into the whole entire circle. And my dad's played basically the whole John Coltrane band, like Evan Jones, or Cedar Lee, Matthew Gilson, McCoy Tyner, and Pharoah Saunders.
Right.
Robert Coltrane too, definitely. And they're all great players. Hugh. So, Kevin Hill, the bass player, who was playing with Pharoah Saunders at the Village Vanguard in Manhattan, heard my dad play and say, "Man, you gotta play with Pharoah Saunders." And me at the Vanguard, Phil had to check you out. And then when my dad and Kevin got to the club, everybody was outdoor stuff. My dad was not used to that, but Pharoah said, "Are you Muñoz, the guitar player?" He's like, "Yeah, my guitar's broken." And he said, well, you gotta go get a guitar. I wanna hear you play, man." So, my dad's at the club. Pharoah told my dad, "Go get your guitar," and then my dad took a subway back home, get his guitar, come back to the club, and then Pharoah played the piano, said, "Can you play a melody over that?" He said, "Sure," he did. And then Pharoah said, "You're in my band. No questions asked. You're in my band." So after my dad played that melody over what Pharoah was playing on the piano, he said, "Yeah, that's exactly what I was hearing in my head, and you're in the band, and we're going to tour. And we wanted to go tour with us." And we said, "Okay." Ever since, my dad and Pharoah has become like brothers, and we have the recordings, the records, and the videos to prove it for all the songs up to this day, and I love every bit of it.
Yeah, so we just heard from Rebazar, and we were discussing your connection with Pharoah Sanders. And my question is, were you guys spiritually compatible?
We were definitely musically compatible, and we were spiritually compatible, even though we come from different backgrounds. See, our hearts were joined in the sound, see, and in the melody, and in the devotion to what is highest in the music. So there was our spiritual compatibility. See, he was Muslim, I was, yogic, like Hindu, Tibetan influence. But the heart was no different. See, when it came time to play, the heart was one heart when we played. And we did a lot of playing, merged. We'd be playing like whole nights. Me on Pharoah, and Pharoah was, when I would resist him, he would say, no, we play together. Don't hesitate to join me when I'm playing. And I'd say, "Pharoah, on you?" He said, "On me. Play with me." See. So we have a considerable amount of music that represents his wish for us to play as one.
What do you feel like playing with Pharoah required, and did you guys need to rehearse before tours or before recording sessions, or how did that go down?
No, we didn't need to rehearse. He may play through a melody, and he would tell me, you'll learn it when you hear it, Tisziji. He said, "You'll know this." Right? He had that kind of confidence in my intelligence, musically speaking. He had a sense about me as a player. You know? And he would play things, and then I would respond to it. And he said, "Oh, you already know this, man. You're playing with me on that." And I think it was more of a psychic resonance with Pharoah. It wasn't what we knew intellectually, it was more of a feeling. And then he would say things like, "No, you'll know it when I play it." So we had that kind of intuitive emphasis on the spontaneity and the creative side of the music. Usually we played simple things to begin with, but then they'd open up into outrageously, even frighteningly out pieces where it's a roar and the band is melting and spilling over the band, the people, the audience, in a sense. It was that way sometimes.
Okay, so if there were no rehearsals or really much preparation for gigs, would you guys meet before the gig, or would you meet in order to work out parts of songs, or how did that work in terms of being on the same page musically?
Seems that we never really played anything that complicated that we would have to be rehearsing it. Pharoah's views, that the music was basic. I'm not going to say it was always simple, but we went more towards the beauty tunes and mantrams, of music that he's known for, and then other things that on occasion I would throw in there, just to state a relatively similar but different point of view. More mantric, simple, sweet, devotional melodies, heart-opening melodies. And then after that, after the structure was understood, then it was deep. We'd go deeper. It was, who are you? What are you? And are you disappearing into the ethers as you play and melting into the light through the sound? Always towards the deepness.
So what we're discussing here in terms of your connection with Pharoah and how you guys would play on gigs and join in the sound together, that it's more about spiritual practice as opposed to musical practice. I mean, the music was the medium, or the music was the form that things were showing up, but it sounds like since there wasn't a whole lot of musical
preparation.
Yeah. It's more open.
Yeah, some would call it free. I would call it, intuitive inspection of one's condition. And we're talking then about a psychic kind of process, not musical in terms of tones and harmonies and rhythms. It's more psychic. That means more feeling and the etheric sense of contact with the audience and the vibrations that are part and parcel of every musical event. There's a vibrational reality there. Sometimes musicians have to work off of that, they have to recognize it, they have to work with it, they have to recreate it, because sometimes the vibrational reality is not right, or it's dark, or it's bad, people are upset, or whatever. There are other waves in the air coming in from the outside of the world. You might have to purify some of that, so you have to tend towards musical devices, or the psychic side of sound and music. We can say it results in a form of music, more like folk music in a manner of speaking. But we're talking about heart music, truly, as part of this process of truth sharing, with the audience.
So for musicians who are training and working to gain mastery over their instrument, which is common for, you know, musicians and people who want to play at a high level. What does this have to do with that, if at all?
Well, there are stages of evolution of intelligence, musically and technically, that a person has to go through. See? Because you get to the point in what we were doing where there's no more learning. There's nothing to learn. See, it's then a question of what do you do after mastery of music? What do you play after mastery of music? See, what do you play then beyond music? See? And can you tolerate that as a musician? See? Can you tolerate going beyond your own mind, yourself, see, your karma, your ambitions, your dreams, and you're searching? Can you go beyond all of that so that what's left is true being? In the presence of now and in the light of what that is, beyond color, the clear light. See? That's